Good morning, dear students. How are you all? I hope you all must be keeping yourself safe by taking all the precautions, and you must have enjoyed as well as completed your assignments during your vacation. So we are back to work. I hope you all are geared up, and today I am going to take up the topic from your book Flamingo. The next chapter that we are going to read is The Rat Trap by Selma Lagerlof. Now, before I start with the chapter, I would just like to give you a short introduction to the author. Selma Lagerlof is the first woman and the first Swedish writer to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature. She was a teacher and she was a novelist too. Her famous novel is The Adventure of Nils. Please do read the novel. You will certainly enjoy it. Now children, you must have been reading so many stories, as well as you must have heard stories from your parents, maybe grandparents, when you were young. Some of you must be also aware that some stories are so interesting that we get engrossed into the story, but we never think about the moral that it gives. But it is very important to imbibe the message and take the moral from the stories. Have you heard about the selfish giant? Yes, I believe you must have read the story. The selfish giant was very cruel-hearted to the children in that story, and when he was not at all loving, and when the children entered his garden, the giant found that the trees and the garden had become even more beautiful due to the entry of the children. The children played there, sang there, and they all cheered up the whole environment, which made the selfish giant happy and his heart transformed. Likewise, in this story, Rat Trap, the author has given the message that the love and compassion can transform even the hardcore hearts. Rat Trap is a story of a peddler who used to earn some meager amount of money by selling rat traps, which he used to make by begging some material for making those rat traps. And when he was selling those rat traps, an idea struck his mind that the whole world seemed to him to be a rat trap in which the people were caught because of their greed and because their blind race for achieving the riches and becoming wealthier. In this way, this poor peddler once happened to find his way into a crofter's house, and the crofter, who thought him to be a confidant, though he was a stranger, he told him about all his secrets, about his earning. As he was a lonely person, he did not have anybody in his house. He wanted a company. When the peddler came to his house, he was very happy and hospitable to him. He showed him the 30 kroner that he had earned by selling the cow's milk. The peddler, on the other hand, who was a thief, who was so poor that he was attracted to the 30 kroner, and he stole the money from his house and ran away from there. Now the peddler thought that he may be caught, therefore he took a different course and he took a different path which led him towards the forest, and finally he could not find his way out of the forest. But somehow, when he heard some sounds of an iron mill, he passed that way, and he somehow managed to reach the ironworks. There, the ironmaster was again very polite and happy to see him, because he had taken him as an old friend. He could not recognize him due to darkness, and in the night when the peddler reached the ironworks, he saw him and felt that he was his old comrade, his friend. Thus, the peddler was invited to the ironmaster's house, and the ironmaster's daughter was also very sympathetic, polite, and kind to the peddler. But the peddler, who had deceived the crofter, who had taken him as a confidant. So finally, what happened to the peddler? He was found out to be a thief by Edla Wilmanson and the ironmaster. Ironmaster and his daughter were afraid, and they were scared that the peddler must have stolen things from their house. But what happened? So we will read the story and then find out. In this story too, the author has given the message that a person can be transformed by love and compassion. The essential goodness can be brought out of a person by showing sympathy and showing compassion to him or her. So, how does a rat trap seller transforms due to the love of the ironmaster's daughter? All this we are going to read in this story. Now, this story is both interesting and philosophical. Philosophical because it gives you the philosophy of life. It gives you the apt moral of the life, that one should be very polite, loving, and compassionate to others if you want that feelings or that particular quality to be reciprocating to you. And otherwise, a person who is in a deplorable condition or pathetic condition, he or she can be transformed, or his feelings or his views can be transformed by one's love and sympathy. So this is what we are going to read in this story, and you may watch the video that follows. Thank you. So dear students, you can see this is the picture of the writer Selma Lagerlöf, who was the first woman and the first Swedish writer to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature. She was a teacher and a writer. So before we read the story, let us know about the author. Selma Lagerlöf was a Swedish writer whose stories have been translated into many languages. A universal theme runs through all of them: a belief that the essential goodness in a human being can be awakened through understanding and love. This story, Rat Trap, is set amidst the mines of Sweden, rich in iron ore, which figure large in the history and legends of that country. The story is told somewhat in a manner of a fairy tale. The novelist Selma Lagerlöf, who in 1909 became the first woman and first Swedish writer to win the prestigious Nobel Prize for Literature, enjoyed telling stories, drawing richly from life in her native warm land and inspired by her beloved Nordic legends. Her work was the romantic answer to the dominant Swedish realism of her time. Lagerlof's internationally best-known book is The Story of Restless Nils, Holger's son, The Wonderful Adventures of Nils, a geography book for school children that conquered the hearts of adventurers of all ages. So dear students, before we begin the reading of the story, let us pay attention to the expressions or phrases which you will come across while reading it. Keep body and soul together. Keep body and soul together means to enable oneself to be alive. That is same as making both the ends meet. That is surviving by some hook or crook, or making some arrangements or efforts to keep oneself alive. Plods along the road. Plods along the road means walking due to a very fatigue or due to being very tired. Plodding actually is the word which shows that a person, when he walks due to fatigue or being very tired, it is plodding. Impenetrable prison. Penetrable, which you can penetrate, which you can enter, but impenetrable is just the opposite of penetration. Then eased his way. Eased his way means to find a comfortable way to get out of a tricky situation. Things have gone downhill. Things have gone downhill means that there is deterioration in the condition or the situation. Hunger gleamed in his eyes shows that how hungry the person was, because it could be observed in his eyes as well. Unwanted. Please note that it is not wanted, it is wanted. Unwanted, W-O-N-T-E-D. Wanted means unexpected joy. Unwanted, unexpected joy, happiness. Nodded a haughty consent. Haughty consent, haughty pride, full of pride. Consent, giving agreement or agreeing to somebody. Nodding again shows the gesture to show that he has agreed, one has agreed. Fallen into a line of thought. Line of thought means a series of thought or imagination. So now we'll read the story. Just a few minutes ago I told you the summary of the story, and this story seems to be the story of a peddler who was a vagabond. Vagabond means wanderer, who is homeless, who is jobless, and who just wanders around to find shelter and food. Once upon a time, there was a man who went around selling some rat traps of wire. Now, I hope everybody knows what is a rat trap. A rat trap is a small trap, enclosed trap, which is made with the help of wire to trap the rats. And then you all must be knowing how the rat is trapped. You need to keep something very attractive for the rats. And what is the most attractive thing for the rats? It is the food. So what do? You keep a piece of bread or cheese to trap the rats. And this is how they are trapped into that wire box. He made them himself add odd moments. Odd moments. That is, when he used to feel having some free time after fulfilling his belly and finding some time, he used to from the material he got by begging in the stores or at the big farms. So he used to buy some material or this wire to make the rat traps. But even so, the business was not especially profitable, so he had to resort to both begging and petty thievery. Petty means small, thievery means stealing, to keep body and soul together. Keep body and soul together, to keep himself alive. He used to sometimes beg as well as sometimes he had to steal. Even so, his clothes were in rags. Rags, torn clothes. His cheeks were sunken and hunger gleamed in his eyes. So I had told you the meaning of all these phrases that you have just now read. No one can imagine how sad and monotonous life can appear to such a vagabond who plods along the road. So, this vagabond's or the peddler's life was very monotonous and sad. He had no home, no shelter, no family, no food, and no job. And you can imagine how boring and sad and pitiable condition was of this vagabond. He used to plod along the road, left to his own meditations. Plod along the road, just walk along the road, keep on walking uselessly, aimlessly, and he used to just go by the road and left to his own meditations. That means he used to keep on thinking in his own, he was engrossed in his own thoughts while walking. But one day this man had fallen into a line of thought. Just now we had discussed falling into a line of thought means thinking one after the other, having one thought after the other. That is a series of thought, which really seemed to him entertaining. He was feeling entertained and amused himself. He was feeling happy for what thoughts came into his mind. And what was the thought that he was thinking about? He had naturally been thinking of his rat traps when suddenly he was struck by the idea that the world about him, the whole world with its lands and seas and cities and villages, was nothing but a big rat trap. Since he used to deal with the rat traps, he used to make small rat traps, his thought was also linked to rat traps only. And therefore, when he was thinking about the world, he thought that the world with all its lands and seas and cities and villages was just like a big rat trap. It had never existed for any other purpose than to set baits for people. That is, he felt that this world is also like a big rat trap and it traps the people. How? The world has set the baits. Baits is the cheese or the bread that attracts the rat in the rat trap. Similarly, this is all the materialistic comforts and materialistic things in the world attract the people, and thus they are caught in the rat trap, which the world is like a rat trap. Therefore, he felt that the world itself is a rat trap. It offered riches and joys, shelter and food, heat and clothing, exactly as the rat trap offered cheese and pork. And as soon as anyone let himself be tempted to touch the bait, it closed in on him, and then everything came to an end. And this is how he had a very pessimistic idea about the world, and he felt the whole world is like a rat trap which traps the people with the help of the joys, riches, shelter, food, etc. The world had of course never been very kind to him, so it gave him unwanted joy to think ill of it in this way. Now pay attention to this sentence. The world had never been very kind to him. The peddler, the vagabond, the wanderer, this person, this poor man thought that the world was never kind to him because everybody commented on him. They used to be very unkind to him, and therefore when he thought about such an idea about the world, it gave him unexpected joy. He was feeling happy to think about the rich people who shunned him, who just looked down upon him. It became a cherished pastime of his during many dreary ploddings to think of people he knew who had left themselves be caught in the dangerous snare, and of others who were still circling around the bait. So he was very happy when he was walking, ploddings, when he was walking along the road, dreary, very dull, very sad. And while he was walking in this condition, he was happy to think of the people who were caught in the rat trap, which is the world itself. And he thought that the people were caught due to their greed towards the riches, the food, and all the materialistic things in this world. And he also felt that some of them were still circling around the bait to get caught in the trap. One dark evening, as he was trudging along the road, he caught sight of a little grey cottage by the roadside. Now look at the word trudging. Trudging is again walking aimlessly, having nowhere to go, and just walking for the sake of walking because you have no home, you have no goal where you are supposed to reach. So he was very tired, and one dark evening, as he was trudging along the road, he caught the sight of a little grey cottage by the roadside, and he knocked on the door to ask shelter for the night. Nor was he refused. So when he reached a grey cottage, the owner of the cottage did not refuse him shelter. He asked for shelter. Instead of the sour faces which ordinarily met him, the owner, who was an old man without wife or child, was happy to get someone to talk to in his loneliness. So this was surprisingly a different situation, because the owner of the cottage had greeted him, welcomed him, and was ready to give him shelter, unlike the other people. And this old man was without wife and child, so he was also alone, and in his loneliness he found a companion to be there at night. Immediately he put the porridge pot on the fire and gave him supper. Then he carved off such a big slice from his tobacco roll that it was enough both for the stranger's pipe and his own. Finally he got out an old pack of cards and played Meolis with his guest until bedtime. So this was the first person who was so humble and so hospitable to the peddler. And this vagabond was given a dinner, or they had porridge in the night as supper, and the old man had also shared his tobacco roll. He had given him shelter as well as food, and he also played a card game with his guest. Meolis is the name of a card game played in Sweden. The old man was just as generous with his confidences as with his porridge and tobacco. Now pay attention to this line. The author says that this old man was not only generous and hospitable in giving him or sharing porridge and tobacco with him, but also he shared his confidences, that is, his secrets, with the vagabond. The guest was informed at once that in his days of prosperity, his host had been a crofter at Ramsau Ironworks and had worked on the land. Now that he was no longer able to do labor, it was his cow which supported him. So what is the secret that he told the vagabond? That in his days of prosperity, he had prosperous days to see, and when he worked as a crofter at Ramsau Ironworks. That is, crofter is a person, especially in Scotland, who owns a small piece of land or rents a land for farming. He was a farmer at that time, and that farm was at Ramsau Ironworks, and he had worked there on that land. At that time he was well off, he was quite rich, but after that, when he could not work any longer as a farmer, it was his cow which supported him. How did the cow support him? That is, he used to sell the milk of the cow at the creamery, where the cream is separated from milk, and there they used to buy the milk from these people. and the last month he had received all of 30 kroners in payment. That is, he told the vagabond, the unknown person to him, that he had received 30 kroner for the milk that he had sold. Kroner is the currency of Sweden, and this is plural. Krona is actually the currency, but plural form of krona is kroner, and 1 krona in the is equivalent to 8.3 paise in Indian currency. That is, in India, 1 krona is equivalent to 8 rupees 3 paise. So this is what he had received for after having sold the milk. The stranger must have seemed incredulous, for the old man got up and went to the window, took down a leather pouch which hung on a nail in the very window frame, and picked out 3 wrinkled 10 kroner bills. These he held up before the eyes of his guest, nodding knowingly. The stranger must have seemed incredulous. Incredulous means that perhaps the stranger was not able to believe what the crofter had told him. So the crofter wanted to show him the money, the currency that he had received. So he went to the window, and from there he brought a leather pouch in which he had kept 3 wrinkled 10 kroner bills, that is equivalent to 30 kroner. Now please note, children, that you don't have to write kroners. It is already plural. Krona is singular, kroners is wrong. It should be kroner only. Okay. So from that pouch he showed him the 3 notes, the bills. These he held up before the eyes of his guest, and when he showed that, only then the stranger believed, and then he kept it back inside the pouch again. The next day both men got up in good season. The crofter was in a hurry to milk his cow, and the other man probably thought he should not stay in bed when the head of the house had gotten up. They left the cottage at the same time. The crofter locked the door and put the key in his pocket. The man with the rat traps said goodbye and thank you, and thereupon each went his own way. So in the morning the crofter also went for his work, and he had to milk his cow. He got up early. Similarly, the vagabond who thought that the master is up, therefore he also got up early in the morning, and he also said goodbye and thanked him for his hospitality. But half an hour later, the rat trap peddler stood again before the door. He did not try to get in, however, but only went up to the window, smashed a pane, stuck in his hand, and got hold of the pouch with the 30 kroner. He took the money and thrust it into his own pocket. Then he hung the leather pouch very carefully back in its place and went away. So students, you have just now read that this peddler, this vagabond, was in the habit of stealing, and therefore he had spotted the place where the crofter used to hang the pouch with the 30 kroner. So when the crofter had gone for work, he came back again, and he went up to the window. He stole the 30 kroner from that pouch and placed the pouch back onto the window hook. As he walked along with the money in his pocket, he felt quite pleased with his smartness. He was very happy that he had very smartly flicked the 30 kroner from the crofter's house. He realized, of course, that at first he dared not continue on the public highway, but must turn off the road into the woods. During the first hours, this caused him no difficulty. Later in the day, it became worse, for it was a big and confusing forest which he had gotten into. So, being very happy and glad about that he had stolen 30 kroner and he was having 30 kroner money with him, he realized that he should not go on the public highway for the fear of being caught. Therefore, he took a side road which passed through the woods. Woods is the forest. Now, initially in the few hours, he did not have any difficulty because the road was moving very smoothly through the woods. Later in the day, it became worse because the forest became very confusing. There were big and huge trees and he could not find his way. He tried to be sure to walk in a definite direction, but the paths twisted back and forth so strangely. So whenever he used to go on a particular path thinking that it would lead him towards the village, he used to come roundabout to the same point from where he had started. He walked and walked without coming to the end of the wood, and finally he realized that he had only been walking around in the same part of the forest. All at once he recalled his thoughts about the world and the rat trap. So what did he think about it? When he was in the forest, when he was not able to find his way out, he remembered the thought about the world and the rat trap. Now his own turn had come. Now it was his own turn. He used to be happy that people are getting caught in the world, which is like a rat trap, having the bait of the riches for them to be caught there. Now he felt that it was his turn, and he felt miserable at the thought that he was caught in this woods. He had left himself befooled by a bait and had been caught. So what was the bait for him? The 30 kroner. And he felt that he had befooled himself by stealing the 30 kroner from the crofter, and now he was in a very pathetic condition. The whole forest with its trunks and branches, its thickets and fallen logs closed in upon him like an impenetrable prison from which he could never escape. So he felt that he will not be able to get out of the forest because it had huge trees which had huge branches, thickets, bushes and fallen logs. The fallen trees, they were all making a kind of prison around him from which he could not escape. It was late in December. Darkness was already descending over the forest. This increased the danger and increased also his gloom and despair. Finally, he saw no way out and he sank down on the ground, tired to death, thinking that his last moment had come. But just as he laid his head on the ground, he heard a sound, a hard, regular thumping. There was no doubt as to what that was. He raised himself. Those are the hammer strokes from an iron mill, he thought. So, when he became very desperate and gloomy, sad that he was not able to find his way, and even there was so much of darkness because of the December month there, he felt that he will not be able to make himself safe, and therefore when he lay down on the ground, he heard the sound of something bumping and thumping, and he realized that he was close to some iron mill which was very near to the forests, because he could hear the hammer strokes. There must be people nearby. He summoned all his strength, got up and staggered in the direction of the sound. See now, students, please note that there is yet another word used for walking in a desperate or sad way, that is staggered. Look at the word staggered. Pay attention to that also. So as he thought that there must be some people around in that iron mill, he would be able to save himself and he would get some shelter for the night. The Ramsau Iron Works, which are now closed down, were not so long ago a large plant with smelter, rolling mill and forge. So in this paragraph, the author has described about the Ramsau Iron Works, which was closed down because it was no longer in a working condition. Otherwise, earlier it was a large plant establishment. It was an establishment with smelter, rolling mill, and a forge. Now, let me explain to you what is a forge. So a forge is a place which has an open fire where you can melt the metal. So the blacksmiths, they use this forge, a place to melt the metals. And this Ramsau Iron Works, with the name itself you can come to know that the iron works was done like smeltering. Smeltering is to remove iron from its ore, and there was a rolling mill also. In the summertime, long lines of heavily loaded barges. So in the summers when the work used to be done in the iron works, there the loaded barges, that is barges and scows, are small boats. Barges are small boats and scows are flat bottomed round boats in which the iron was loaded, and it was slowly slid down the canal which led to a large inland lake. So there was an inland lake, and in the winter time the roads near the mill were black from all the coal dust which sifted down from the big charcoal crates. So the charcoal was used for burning and to produce fire so that the iron could be melted. So this was the work that used to go on at Ramsau Iron Works. Now students, if you can remember, where did the crofter work? He also worked there in the farm next to Ramsau Iron Works. So all this work used to happen there, but now it was closed down. During one of the long dark evenings just before Christmas, the master smith and his helper sat in the dark forge. Now you can remember that it was the month of December and it was just before Christmas. The master smith, the blacksmith who deals and works with the iron, and his helper sat in the dark forge near the furnace waiting for the pig iron. Pig iron, I believe everybody knows what is pig iron. Yes, it is the crude iron or the iron ore with all the impurities. Okay, and from this the pure iron is extracted, which had been put in the fire to be ready to put on the anvil. Every now and then one of them got up to stir the glowing mass with a long iron bar, returning in a few moments dripping with perspiration, though as was the custom he wore nothing but a long shirt and a pair of wooden shoes. So you can see that the author has told you what it is all about. That is, a blacksmith, when they are working near the furnace or the heat to melt the iron, they wear long shirt. That is, they wear a long thick cloth or the metal shirt, apron, or and a pair of wooden shoes so that they don't burn themselves. And so when there was no work going on in Ramsau Iron Works, the master smith, that is the blacksmith, and his helper, only two persons were there who were doing the work, and they were heating the pig iron, and they were sitting and waiting for the iron to melt, and for that they were dripping with perspiration because there was tremendous heat there, and so they were perspiring in the month of December. It was very cold, but as they were sitting near the fire, they were doing the work, and they had to stir the glowing mass. Glowing mass, that is when the iron ore was becoming red hot, it was looking as though it was glowing. So with a long iron bar they used to stir it also, and thus they were doing their work. All the time there were many sounds to be heard in the forge. The big bellows groaned and the burning coal cracked. The big bellows, now the bellows are the leather bags or an instrument used to blow air into the fire so that the fire does not die down, it grows, it increases. So the big bellows groaned and the burning coal cracked. All these sounds could be heard all the time there were many sounds which could be heard in the forge, just like the sounds of the charcoal, cracking of the burning charcoal, the big bellows groaning. Now bellows, I told you just now that bellows are the leather bags with the help of which the air is blown into the fire in the forge, so that the fire does not die down and it produces tremendous heat. The fire boy shoveled charcoal into the maw of the furnace with a great deal of clatter. So this also was another sound. The shoveling of the charcoal and the clattering of the clatter sound was heard there. Outside roared the waterfall, and there was the roaring of the waterfall, and a sharp north wind whipped the rain against the brick tiled roof. So the author has described the Ramsau Ironworks so beautifully that she has given a very picturesque description of this place. It was probably on account of all this noise that the blacksmith did not notice that a man had opened the gate and entered the forge until he stood close up to the furnace. So the vagabond, slowly, when he had heard the sounds from far off in the forest, he felt that he could save himself, and therefore he started walking in the direction of the sound and finally reached the forge. As there were so many noises which made the vagabond creep into the forge very slowly, and the blacksmith and his assistant could not notice him. Surely it was nothing unusual for poor vagabonds without any better shelter for the night to be attracted to the forge by the glow of light which escaped through the sooty panes, and to come in to warm themselves. So it was nothing unusual for poor vagabonds. So he was not the first vagabond to get into the forge. The blacksmith and the assistant, the helper, they used to do their work, and sometimes it used to happen that the vagabonds used to enter the forge the Ramsau Ironworks in order to take shelter for the night, because they were attracted by the glow of light, and they used to stay there for the night. The blacksmiths glanced only casually and indifferently at the intruder, one who had entered quietly without being noticed. So this vagabond who had come inside was noticed by the blacksmiths, and when they noticed him, they looked very casually at him, because it was nothing unusual for the vagabonds to enter the ironworks. He looked the way people of his type usually did, with a long beard, dirty, ragged, and with a bunch of rat traps dangling on his chest. So this was the usual look of all the vagabonds, and therefore the blacksmiths were not surprised. He asked permission to stay, and the master blacksmith nodded a haughty consent without honoring him with a single word. And when he asked for permission, he was allowed without anything asked about him. The tramp did not say anything either. Students, please note, for the vagabond, the author has used another word, tramp. Tramp is also the same as vagabond or a wanderer. The tramp did not say anything either. He had not come there to walk, but only to warm himself and sleep. In those days, the Ramsau Iron Mill was owned by a very prominent ironmaster, whose greatest ambition was to ship out good iron to the market. He watched both night and day to see that the work was done as well as possible. And at this very moment, he came into the forge on one of his nightly rounds of inspection. So at the Ramsau Iron Mill and Works, even though the blacksmiths were working there, the master was also very he was very alert, and he wanted that the blacksmiths should do a good work and produce good iron. Therefore, the blacksmiths had given permission to the vagabond or the tramp to stay there for the night. But the ironmaster, when he had come there, he noticed the vagabond, and he saw that he was a tall ragamuffin who had eased his way so close to the furnace that the steam rose from his wet rags. Ragamuffin, one who was wearing full rags, and he was sitting so close to the furnace that he could see the steam evaporating from his wet rags. The ironmaster did not follow the example of the blacksmiths, who had hardly deigned to look at the stranger. So unlike the other blacksmiths who were working there, who had not paid attention to the vagabonds, the ironmaster was very careful, and he noticed the stranger. He walked close to him, looked him over very carefully, and then tore off his slouch hat, and to get a better view of his face, he was wearing a slouch hat, that is a big hat, and he just lifted his hat to get a clear view of the face of the stranger. "But of course it is you, Nils Olof," he said. How you do look." The man with the rat traps had never before seen the ironmaster at Ramsau, and he did not even know what his name was. So when the ironmaster saw the stranger, he felt that he was one of his friends, Nils Olof. But the stranger was really surprised, because he did not know the ironmaster. But it occurred to him that if the fine gentleman thought he was an old acquaintance, he might perhaps throw him a couple of kroner. Therefore, he did not want to undeceive him all at once. Therefore, he did not reveal his identity to the ironmaster, even though he had never seen the ironmaster before. And on the other hand, when the ironmaster had recognized him as one of his old acquaintances, he did not think of undeceiving him. "Yes, God knows things have gone downhill with me," he said. And he simply showed or told about his pathetic condition, and told that things had gone downhill with him. That is, his life was in a very miserable condition, and things were not improving, or they were deteriorating on the other hand. "You should not have resigned from the regiment," said the ironmaster. "That was the mistake. If only I had still been in the service at that time, it never would have happened. Well, now of course you will come home with me." So he told the stranger that you should not have resigned from the regiment. So perhaps he thought that he was one of his comrades. He was in the army, and he thought that he was his friend Nils, who was also in the army, and he had resigned. He said if he would have been in the service at that time, he would not have allowed him to do so. To go along up to the manor house and be received by the owner like an old regimental comrade, that however did not please the tramp. So till here it was okay for the tramp and the vagabond, that he was trying to deceive the ironmaster, who had considered him to be his old regimental friend. But when he requested him to come up to his house, he did not like the idea at all. Now, since the peddler or the rat trap seller or the tramp, he did not like the idea that he should go along with the ironmaster to his house, he told him, "No, I couldn't think of it," he said, looking quite alarmed. So he was alarmed right at that time. He was aware. What was he aware of? He thought of the 30 kroner. To go up to the manor house would be like throwing himself voluntarily into the lion's den. And he thought that he had stolen the money, and that money was still with him. And if he goes to his house, then he may be finally getting trapped into a lion's den. He only wanted a chance to sleep here in the forge and then sneak away as inconspicuously as possible. The ironmaster assumed that he felt embarrassed because of his miserable clothing. And ironmaster, on the other hand, felt that he was in rags, and therefore he was not feeling comfortable to go to his house. Please don't think that I have such a fine home that you cannot show yourself there, he said. Elizabeth is dead, as you may already have heard. My boys are abroad, and there is no one at home except my oldest daughter and myself. We were just saying that it was too bad we did not have any company for Christmas. Now come along with me and help us make the Christmas food disappear a little faster. So in this paragraph, the author has said that even the ironmaster considered him to be his friend, his old regimental friend, and therefore he was very friendly and humble to him. Very politely he invited him to his house and also told about the condition of his family. He told that his wife was dead and his sons were living abroad, and he had only his oldest daughter there. And therefore these two were waiting for somebody to give them a company for Christmas, and now he was happy that his friend has come to that place, and therefore he invites him for the Christmas dinner. But the stranger said no and no and again no, and the ironmaster saw that he must give in. Give in is a phrase which means that he must surrender and accept the invitation. It looks as though Captain Von Stell preferred to stay with you tonight, says Sternstrom. It is the name of the blacksmith who was working there. And the ironmaster said that perhaps Captain Von Stell, he introduces him as Captain Von Stell because he thought he was that person or his friend. And he said that perhaps the master blacksmith Sternstrom was supposed to be with the captain there. But he laughed to himself as he went away, and the blacksmith who knew him understood very well that he had not said his last word. So the ironmaster, when he could not take the vagabond along with him to his house, he left all alone, and the vagabond was happy to stay there. It was not more than half an hour before they heard the sound of carriage wheels outside the forge, and a new guest came in. But this time it was not the ironmaster. He had sent his daughter, apparently hoping that she would have better powers of persuasion than he himself. Now please note the sentence. She would have better powers of persuasion than he himself. So the ironmaster was so bent upon bringing or taking the vagabond to his house, feeling that he was his friend, and he thought that he was not able to convince him or persuade him. He sent his daughter, thinking that his daughter could have better powers of persuasion and she may be even more polite to the vagabond, and perhaps the vagabond may accept the invitation. She entered, followed by a valet carrying on his arm a big fur coat. She was not at all pretty. So when the ironmaster went home, he told everything to his daughter, and he also described the condition, the ragged condition of the vagabond. And therefore, you can see in this paragraph that when she entered with the valet is the driver, and she had also brought a big fur coat for the vagabond. She was not at all pretty, but seemed modest and quite shy. In the forge, everything was just as it had been earlier in the evening. The master's blacksmith and his apprentice, his assistant, still sat on their bench, and the iron and charcoal still glowed in the furnace. So dear students, I would request you all to read the story further and find out how did the ironmaster's daughter persuade the vagabond to go to his house, and how did she treat him, what was her attitude towards this tramp. So we'll stop here today. Thank you.